Coles Belmont has spent $4 million on its facelift, the superstore mentality seeing new departments and a whole new concept, cafe shopping, added. In a first for the state, the yuppie shopper is targeted. They can sit in an alfresco setting for a quick cappuccino amid capsicums and lettuces before moving on to the canned goods. At Wallsend, $2.8 million has been spent as Coles shops around for a slicker look. And with the Hunter seen as a major growth area for retailing, Woolworths is also on the expansion bandwagon, considering a $60 million extension to its Green Hills shopping centre. The development would see the addition of dozens of specialty shops and a major retailing chain store with the possibility of hundreds of new jobs. But management says the extension is still very much in the planning stages. Woolworths hasn't yet sought development consent for the extensions with the Maitland City Council, but all going well, it plans to lodge a development application in the near future. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.
Sydney girl said, another person from Newcastle.
Teacher, ultimately here at junior high and then at
girls' high.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
To go back to work and get the money for our
Locals around the Morisset, Mannering Park, Coorambong and Dora Creek areas believe their needs are constantly overshadowed by those of their West Lakes neighbours closer to Toronto.
We call it the forgotten area. We're neglected, we feel, by local council, by governments, and people don't realise that this area is actually a high growth area.
Since the mid-80s, residents of the rapidly growing Morisset area have been lobbying for improved health services. With 4,000 signatures under their belt, they sought the support of member for Lake Macquarie, Jeff Hunter. He took the petition to Parliament, but instead of calling for a Morisset polyclinic, altered the document to read West Lakes.
The spirit of the petition, let alone the words, have been changed so that all the people that signed that petition have now given their support without their consent to the Toronto Polyclinic.
A $5 million West Lakes Polyclinic at Toronto was given the go-ahead last month, but the Morisset Group now wants its petition corrected and resubmitted. A censure motion against Jeff Hunter in Parliament failed, and he insists that Morisset is as much a part of West Lakes as Toronto. Andrew Lobb, NBN News. As well as taking on the sons and daughters of coal miners for training in the mines, the Mine Workers Union has begun a pilot program to give young people a start in the hospitality industry. 15 candidates, most from the Upper Hunter, have enlisted in the United Youth Workforce. After a week's intensive training at Cardiff Workers Club, they'll form a casual labour pool on offer to Hunter clubs and pubs.
We do the training, then after we've completed it, we have backup, like we have support to actually go to the work placements and help us in the door.
You just can't get hired unless you've got the experience. With this course, it offers experience in a wide range of the hospitality industry.
If they go on other courses, they finish them, they've given a certificate or a piece of paper, but there's no follow-up, and therefore the end result is they get a bit despondent about it.
Many are graduates of government training schemes and became disillusioned at not finding work. The Mine Workers Union covers costs such as superannuation and worker insurance for the candidates in the hope of making them more attractive to a prospective employer. If the course takes off, there are plans to diversify training into other fields. The Newcastle Breakers Ericsson Cup coach John Cosmina will join former Socceroos coach David Ratcliffe to coach a home-based side of hot soccer talent to be known as the True Blues. They'll be taking on Australia's best overseas exports to be known as the International Travellers.
I think there's a couple of players in the Newcastle Breakers side who've got an excellent chance of being selected. Obviously John and David will sit down in the near future to select the squad. But yeah, I think there's a couple of players who've got an excellent opportunity. If they don't for this current tournament, well, obviously, with this being the stepping stone, obviously in the years to come.
The two-match series to be played next month will be the most expensive assembly of Australian players, their net worth an estimated $50 million. The competition will be called the Superstars of Soccer and feature the likes of goalkeeper Mark Bosnich and striker Aurelio Vidmar. The two big games will be played in Sydney and Brisbane, but spin-off benefits are likely to flow on to regional centres.
Well, with Cosy, he's boots and all. As we speak today, he's in Armidale, he's in Inverell next week. We've got a clinic coming up in July for 2 weeks. He's heavily involved with that. We've got some disabled people coming out later this month to work with 3 or 4 of the players. Whatever it involves around ball code or he can do to help people within this area, he certainly will.
With names like Hariba and All Our Mob in the 1400 metre race, Dana Singer wasn't rated much of a chance. The punters were soon proven wrong. If he'd backed his horse, Lee Friedman would be smiling. $18.50 the win. Encore's a generous $5.40 for second, monopolised $3.20. The Quinella $114.10, the Trifecta a whopping $2,107.20. Still at Eagle Farm and a great result for the Hunter region in the Queensland Derby. Valance came from the back of the field at the turn to record a last gasp win. Valance a popular choice at $3 the win, Super Slew paying $1.50 for second, Revenge $2.70, the Quinella $7.40, the Trifecta $120.50. From the opening whistle, the Marlins were never in the hunt. Souths in control all over the field and all over the scoreboard. Not afraid to swing the ball wide, some lion-hearted play from the Souths' backs paid constant dividends. By half-time, the score read 30 points to 4, and the game was already won. 16 points to each team in the second half, the Lions taking the match 46-20. And last night, Toronto had their troubles early on against a spirited Waratah Mayfield outfit. Jason McGrady crossed in the first 5 minutes for the Scorpions, but Waratah levelled the score not long after. In a seesawing first half, the Cheetahs leapt to the lead with a try to Paul Rosenbaum. Toronto halfback Tony McFadden replying to send his team to a 12-10 half-time lead. But the Green and Golds proved too strong in the second half. The final score a runaway 34-16 victory. The Wildfires headed into the game confident of victory and confident of an open, fast game. They got both against one of the youngest teams in the competition. The defence from both sides was strong in the opening 40 minutes, reflected in the half-time score, 3-0 to the home side. But the Wildfires picked up their act, racing to an 18-point lead through some slick backline movements. Sydney Uni caught up, at one stage down by only 6 points. But Newcastle made sure of it in the end. Final score 25-12. To soccer, and in a game which never reached any great heights, the Adamstown Rosebuds have gone down to Parramatta 1-0. McDermott was Adamstown's best, the club resting star players Jennings and Macquarie. The Rosebuds will take the loss in their stride, already assured of a grand final berth.
When fire brigades arrived at the house in Macquarie Street, Wallsend, just before 11 o'clock last night, they found the owner of the home trying to stop the blaze with a garden hose. Earlier, the man had evacuated 2 children when smoke detectors sounded the alarm. They all escaped to safety and no one was injured. There are no suspicious circumstances surrounding the blaze. It's believed it started in the kitchen. Brigades from 4 Newcastle stations were required to contain the fire. It severely damaged the building and took 15 minutes to put out. The job was not an easy one, and fire brigade officers were forced to enter the roof cavity when spot fires broke out in the ceiling. The roof of the house partially collapsed into one of the bedrooms. Damage is estimated to be in the thousands of dollars. Simone Thurtell, NBN News.
"65 seniors tore up the track at West Maitland Raceway. Tony Primer confirming why he's recognised as one of the best in Australia, an easy winner in the 500cc solos. Not to be outdone, Jamie Stouffer, who took out the 125cc and 250cc titles.
They're the best in Australia. You know, there's not many better than them in dirt track racing.
The track was in perfect condition for racing, but there were spills. Strider Horton the worse for wear. He was taken to hospital for observation. Also today, the Northern New South Wales Branch Archery Championships. A good turnout for the titles, despite numbers in the sport being down. 120 archers shooting at targets between 8 and 50 metres away. And just to show age is no barrier, 4-year-old Hayley Elliott, wielding her bow like a pro. Robert Ovadia, NBN News. The game's called pétanque, from the French word meaning, well, pétanque. It's as French as frog's legs and has been around since the Roman Empire, but only now is it making its presence felt in Australia.
Not only from the French, because it's a French sport, but the Australians are coming forward now and joining with us.
And now Newcastle is turning franglais with the first Newcastle Open. The popularity of the sport in Australia would bowl you over. Nearly 10,000 amateur players. The best of them all, Monique and Muriel, 2 very Aussie girls who'll represent Australia at the World Championships in Finland next month.
We hope that we can do our best for our country. I know that we are not maybe as good as some of the European countries that are playing there, but we'll do our best.
The Newcastle club has nearly 50 members, starting with just 7 3 months ago. It's the 14th club in Australia to be affiliated with the Australian Pétanque Federation.
I think it's a good game, fun, and anybody can play it.
With numbers in the sport steadily growing, it's hoped Australia can host the World Championships in 2002. When Andrew Johns put O'Davis through after 2 minutes, Newcastle's future was looking bright. But in a highly physical game, the Knights were copping it from all sides. The first to go was Adam Muir in what seemed a harmless tackle, the lock forward currently undergoing treatment for an injured shoulder. He risks missing out on next week's final State of Origin. Darren Tracy was also feeling the pinch, straining ligaments in his elbow. Star 5'8" Matthew Johns, another casualty. He had to be carried off after spraining his ankle. It's not yet known whether he'll be right for next week's game. And as if Coach Mal really had enough on his plate, with Chief Harrigan also on the sideline, his woes continued. Lee Jackson stretched it off with a suspected broken leg. Tracy recovered to score the Knights' final try, the scoreline reading 22-6. A far from flattering result for the home side in an uninspiring match. The Knights off to North Queensland next week to take on the Cowboys.
Polo cross combines elements of polo and lacrosse. It's played at a furious pace between two teams, each of 6 players, on horseback. The players use a stick with a type of net on the end to shoot a rubber ball through the opposing team's goalposts. Each game comprises 6 chukkers. The Bunnan Club hosted the championship event. President Graham Hocking was delighted with the support and success of the carnival.
We've had terrific sponsorship. It's been probably the best sponsorship we've had for a lot of years, and all the Bunnan members have pulled together, and it's been a real big success.
After the preliminaries on Saturday, it was down to the more serious business of the game yesterday. South East Queensland in the gold shirts defeated South West Slopes in the mixed championship. North Coast beat Hunter Valley in both the men's and women's finals, while Hunter Valley won the under-21 division and Southern Highlands the junior section.
The idea of the Variety Club Bash is to raise funds for disabled or disadvantaged children, and this Newcastle Bash money will stay in the Newcastle, Hunter and New England regions.
The designs are on display at Wyong Council. The 3 separate competition entries each reflect a different approach to building the university, but revolve around the central theme of environmental sustainability, branching away from the more traditional university layout. The displays are among 10 of the best entries to be submitted from a field of close to 100.
We cast the net right around the world, and something like about 82 or 86 responses initially. We were whittled down to 28, and now we're down to 10. So fairly high-powered finish to that.
The proposed university, to be built on council-owned land at Warnervale, is designed to be an environmentally friendly institution which offers a more holistic approach to education. At this stage, it's still little more than a concept, but the developers are confident construction work will be underway within 12 months. In the meantime, they need to decide which group of architects should design the facility. Emma Ossian, NBN News. The police were today given an official farewell at Darling Harbour in Sydney, having been chosen by the Atlanta Olympic Committee to take part in security team program. The officers will provide a range of security functions at the Games and are among 1,000 volunteers to participate in the scheme. Assistant Commissioner Dennis Gilligan says the officers will learn valuable skills which will help with preparations for the Sydney Olympics.
And I know that over the next 4 years, those officers will contribute greatly to our preparations here in Sydney.
7 local officers are part of the team and they're looking forward to working with their colleagues overseas.
It's a unique experience and it's a chance to be involved in the Olympic Games both in Atlanta and in Sydney in the year 2000.
To make up the shortfall.
We might end up with meals without wheels, for example, if this were allowed to go to its logical conclusion.
But the news isn't all bad, at least for the moment, with the official opening today of what's being called a one-stop welfare centre. One stop because it provides 5 services under the same roof, including Meals on Wheels, which has traditionally worked out of Maitland Town Hall.
This makes for an efficient use of scarce resources, and it additionally provides better scope and facility for improved assessment and referral procedures.
The local council has chipped in $50,000 for the project, which is ensuring the most effective care possible for the region's ageing population. The Old Literary Institute is the site for the new centre, refurbished at a cost of $220,000. And further good news for Maitland, Mr Dyer presenting a cheque for $5,000 for the town's child care centre. Robert Ovadia, NBN News.
We've got 3 kids. We live right here in the corner. We're the only house in the corner that hasn't literally been hit by a vehicle. I want to finish my life having 3 children, not finish my life having 1 or 2.
The Sydney Kings are on fire, having won 6 games in a row. The last time they were beaten was by Newcastle in a thriller. But Falcons coach Tom Wisman insists the 1-point victory does not give his team the edge.
No, there's no psychological advantages. It's a dogfight every time we get into it. There's a great rivalry that we have with Sydney, and it will be that same again. But
before the Falcons even think about playing the Kings, they have a hungry southeast Melbourne to contend with, suffering its first home game loss for the season last week. Sydney boasts an even more imposing record at home, undefeated.
Both teams are very tough on their home court, and those are the type of challenges that this team tends to rise to, and we're looking forward to the opportunity of redeeming ourselves from last week's disappointment.
The Kings and Magic share equal second honours in the NBL with an 8-3 win-loss record. Newcastle takes on the heavyweights at 5-5, but will be buoyed by their most recent outings against the two, the Falcons winning 5 games straight.
The Welsh must have felt at home in the rain. Wales was first to get over the try line, the winger Evans sliding in the corner. The Welsh have had an ordinary tour, but they were sticking to their guns today. Some smooth play put Cormac under the posts. Just a matter of minutes later, the fullback was in again, taking the Welsh to a 25-3 lead at half-time. The tourists pushed further ahead. Big flanker Steve Williams helped over by the Welsh forwards. More brute force from prop John Davis, and the country boys were taking a hiding. Merrick and Klassen never gave up, but Wales was too classy. In the try of the day, Cormac was again involved, Hill finishing the move. At the full-time whistle, it was 49 points to 3, and didn't the Welsh supporters love it? Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The Falcons had high hopes going into the game, but John Dorge quickly brought them back to earth with the first of his 22 points. South East Melbourne was also magic from the outside, but Lachlan Armfield had some tricks of his own. The Magic had skipped away by 19 at half-time, Butch Hayes offering the only resistance. The Falcons were woeful in defence, the game eventually turning into a dunking competition. And it looked like the Falcons may have lost that too, until David Van Dyke showed off his trademark dunk. But it was the Magic's night, the home team winning by 110-80. The loss leaves the Falcons out of the top 8, with the red-hot Sydney Kings determined to send them further down the ladder tonight. Newcastle was the last team to beat Sydney, but the Kings are on a 6-game winning streak and are undefeated at home. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. Neil Morrison, second from the right, led from the start and was never in trouble on a course he knows like the back of his hand. Competitors thrashed it out over 4 laps of the 5-kilometre course, with recent rain helping to keep the trademark dust to a minimum. The number of competitors was well down, with 85 vehicles lining up for the green light, 20 less than last year. This helped locals to dominate the first day of racing, winning 6 of the 8 classes. The drivers will begin the night race in just over 10 minutes' time. That'll be followed by 2 races tomorrow, as well as the state long course title. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. The players wore black armbands in memory of the soldiers who died in the Black Hawk helicopter disaster near Townsville. A battle of a different kind last night, Beecham KO'd by a knee, before Grogan returned the favour. It looked like the Knights wouldn't need their origin stars when Matthew Johns delivered an invitation to the try line to Robbie O'Davis. But ironically, it was the Juneman brothers at the scrum base that would bring Newcastle undone, Ian cutting out half the Knights' backline to level the scores. That wasn't the only thing that brought the Knights back to earth. Controversial decisions by Neil Armand leaving Newcastle on the back foot. The Cowboys started a scoring stampede, another try out wide, before Matthew Johns bombed a kick to help North Queensland to a 14-4 half-time lead. 2 converted tries in the opening minutes of the second half gave North Queensland the game. A Glanville 4-pointer put some respectability back in the scoreline, but it was North Queensland's night, victors 26-10. In local league, just 2 games played today after the Toronto South clash was washed out. Nelson Bay beat Central and West down Cessnock. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The Newcastle Regional Chamber of Commerce is calling a truce. The Chamber and Newcastle Council have been feuding over what the Chamber calls a go slow on development approvals. But the Chamber is now hoping for a unified approach.
It's the vision that we want, is that we've all got the same vision to share in Newcastle.
At a meeting at Town Hall on the weekend, the Chamber and other business groups presented Council with a program on issues of concern. That was returned with an angry response from Greens councillor John Sutton. Sutton saying the Chamber representatives were acting like babies.
If you've got a certain segment of the council that's not prepared to work with an enormous amount of resources behind them and people to assist them in gaining something, I don't know where we go.
Paul Murphy believes his group has the support of most of the council and he's calling for calm to sort any problems out.
Livestock. Every week, hundreds of cattle pass through the local sale yard. The council has a plan which it believes will stop, but like most rural communities, Singleton is having to adjust its way of doing things. The council has been put on notice by the Environment Protection Authority to clean up its act. Singleton is the hunters' largest marketplace for livestock. Every week, hundreds of cattle pass.
We want to take the national team across the country to show Australians that Australians do play the game and they play it very well.
The Knights Junior Development Program speaks for itself, producing numerous first-grade players. One such success story is Robbie O'Davis. After coming through the program, the 23-year-old fullback now has the job of implementing it.
If we can go around and we can walk away from one session and then go past another kid a week later and see he's doing something we actually taught him, we know he's succeeded.
Guaranteeing the future of the program to next year, McDonald's announced a $75,000 grant. It will fund clinics, camps, equipment and competitions. Immediately it means good things for Hunter Juniors, while in the long term the Knights are confident their ongoing commitment will be mirrored with future success on the paddock.
For years and years we've had great quality blokes coming through. We've had blokes come through the ranks as play at the highest level. We've always had one of our junior sides winning the competition.
The funding is expected to keep that proud record alive. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
The protesters, crouched in cages and bearing banners, were determined to dramatise their message, the Battery Farms torture.
There is no way that these birds can express any of their natural behaviours while they're in a battery cage. They can't spread their wings, they can't walk.
Their anger was sparked following a secret raid early this morning on the Pace Battery Cage farm off the highway at Belmont North, south of Newcastle. There they obtained videotape footage which they claim shows the discovery of 5 dead birds in their cages. 5 other sick and injured birds were taken to a vet, Dr Mark Simpson at West Wallsend, for treatment.
Row after row you just see these distressed, terrified, gaunt, featherless, malnourished, dehydrated birds.
The group is now calling for a total ban on all battery farms. Emma Siossian, NBN News.